Is the CPB targeting women and children? CPB is the Customs and Border Protection Agency that protects our borders in the United States. According to data from the United States government, Customs and Border Protection, CPB, has refused to vaccinate detained migrants, including unaccompanied minors and women. Welcome to Radio Labio's English program, where I share the most interesting notes of the day that you may not have had time to catch up on. I'm Juan Andres. I podcast in English and Spanish to ensure that all Latinos can have access to our programs regardless of what language they speak, and thanks for listening. The data was obtained by a news organization and indicates that only a smaller percentage of the thousands of migrants that the United States has processed this year received the vaccine while they were in federal custody. Half of them are unaccompanied children, and more than half of them are children and women. And remember, COVID vaccines were available for all children 12 and older for quite a while now. So that's not an excuse. The fact that the Customs and Border Protection Agency has refused to offer vaccines left hundreds of people vulnerable when they were released on U.S. soil. This implies that the agency ignored the call of health experts who asked that people in the custody of agencies such as the Immigration and Customs Control Service be vaccinated. Data indicates that ICE and the Department of Health and Human Services administered doses of vaccines to more than 90,000 immigrants in removal proceedings. Are you ready for this? When they were sent back to their countries, they were given the vaccines. But when they were entering the country and released into the population, they're not given vaccines. Does that make any sense? Well, it depends on your intention, and I have my own viewpoint on this. Just this week, despite the fact that there should have been a plan by July the 31st, the Customs and Border Patrol Protection Agency planned to offer vaccines for migrants subject to remain in Mexico. If they're going to stay in Mexico now, they're going to come, register for asylum, and then they're going to get the vaccine and sent back to Mexico. But if they're released into the population, no vaccine. That doesn't make any sense. But there's a reason, and I'm going to explain that to you. My opinion. Although it's not clear why CPB refused to vaccinate migrants, an internal DHS memo suggested that the reason could be that vaccines can be seen as an attraction to cross the border without authorization. Whoa, come on. You just heard that they're vaccinating those that are applying for asylum and are being returned to Mexico. So they're going to find out, the people that are crossing the border are going to find out that they're getting vaccines. So that doesn't hold water. This thing that vaccines can be seen as an attraction to cross our border, they're going to see that anyway when the migrants that are told, okay, you're on the list, I'll go back to Mexico and wait. You think they're not going to talk to all these caravans coming across? So this doesn't hold water. This is an excuse. I think I know the reason why. My opinion, and I'm going to share it with you. Anyway, could this be politically motivated? I certainly think so. Look, remember that Republicans have been mentioning repeatedly that migrants are bringing COVID into the country. By not vaccinating them, it would increase COVID cases that could be attributed to migrants. Could Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Texas Governor Greg Abbott be willing to risk American lives just to appear politically correct and try to garner votes for the 2022 election? My personal opinion, I think so. I certainly hope and pray that this is not the case, but in today's polarized and deceitful political atmosphere, I personally have to keep all possibilities open, and this is a highly, highly suspicious one. You remember when Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a bizarre, vaguely worded executive order on Wednesday of last week or the week before that he says is aimed at lowering COVID-19 infections? In a statement about the order, he said, "The dramatic rise in unlawful border crossings has also led to a dramatic rise in COVID-19 cases among unlawful migrants who have made their way into our state, and we must do more to protect Texans from this virus and reduce the burden on our committees." This is nonsense. His order is an outrageous attempt to scapegoat immigrants and people who look like them, like me, like you, as being somehow to blame for the resurgent pandemic. It is certain to invite racial profiling and other abuses of the law and bring Texas into the realm of immigration enforcement, which the Constitution forbids. And then you're releasing all those that you're releasing into our society, into our population, with no vaccines. And then saying that it's the people that are crossing the border illegally that are causing it, when you are generating it maliciously by not vaccinating the people you're releasing into the population. This is just unbelievable. But then in our polarized world today in the United States, nothing surprises me anymore. This is beyond the pale. This is ridiculous, but it doesn't surprise me. It's a shame. Look, his order said that when migrants are released from the custody of federal immigration officials, it is illegal for anyone except law enforcement to give them a ride home to their families or to a sponsor's home. It directs the state's Department of Public Safety to stop and reroute any vehicle upon reasonable suspicion of a violation of this order. Now remember that the migrants that they're putting into the law enforcement cars to give them a ride home because they've been released into the population are not vaccinated. And then remember when Ron DeSantis, another Republican in Florida, said Joe Biden has driven the current coronavirus surge because he imported more virus from around the world by having a wide open southern border. Now, just think of the statement. This is the unbelievable situation that we're living in. These are his words. Imported more virus from around the world by having a wide open southern border. Not airports, not people from around the world. Now, as everybody from all over the world is running to Mexico to come and walk from wherever they landed in Mexico to the southern border to come into the United States. And that is President Biden's plan, to bring them in unvaccinated. But they're supposed to be vaccinated when they come and apply, but they're not vaccinated. And Biden's responsible because they're not vaccinated. Oh my goodness. Now that the courts have forced the Biden administration to institute the stay in Mexico while waiting to your asylum status. It means that 100% of asylum seekers will not be vaccinated against COVID, maybe? No? They're vaccinating them. They're vaccinating them when they're putting them back in after they sign up for asylum and are sent back to Mexico. They're vaccinating. So thank goodness that this won't turn into a crazy situation as well. This part of the plan, the Biden part of the plan, they're going to get vaccinated so that way when they are allowed to come back in again, they have already been vaccinated. Thank goodness. So they'll blame him for that as well. It's a crazy time, folks. In all the years I've lived here, I've never seen it worse than this. Never. Every day I get up in the morning and I'm learning to readjust to the new reality. It doesn't even resemble the America that I came to decades and decades ago. A lone person going into a Walmart, targeting Hispanics and killing them without mercy. God, you'd think that our leaders would be a little more conscious of the damage that they could cause, that words matter. You know what I mean? Having 3 vigilantes run down the street and gun down an unarmed black jogger. Wow. It's insane. And God only knows what's going to happen. Thank God it's the holidays. I hope during the holidays things calm down a little bit and we can at least have a peaceful Christmas. I hope and pray. God knows what's going to happen. You know that in January, everything's going to explode. It's 2022, folks. It's 2022. If you think that last year, 2021 was crazy and 2020 was crazy with the election and the attack on the Capitol, God only knows what we have in store for 2022. It's an election year again, and there's going to be a big fight politically for the leadership of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And the rhetoric is going to start right off the bat. It'll start in the first quarter. Okay, by March, it should be blazing, and the closer we get to November, the crazier it's going to get. Get ready for all this. Get ready to vote. You're going to have to be ready to vote, because the only way we're going to stop these crazy things like releasing asylum seekers unvaccinated into the population, which in my opinion is done for political reasons, so you can turn around and blame immigrants and blame the president for letting them in the first place, when you have created laws during the Trump administration and put people into these departments that still follow the ex-president and his ideas. I don't know. We'll see where all this ends up. Anyway, I'm Juan Andres. You can find us on more than 60 sites on the internet where you can listen to our podcast. Just ask Google Radio Labio and they'll pop up and you can pick whichever one you want. On my behalf, as well as my colleague Ivan Encinas and our manager and fellow on-air personality, Francisco Maldonado, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.